Today we're looking at the chapter rules for 5 different Space Marine chapters. Let's talk about the state of the Red Scorpions and friends in the new Imperial Armour book. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're talking Successor Chapter traits, in particular the recommended ones for these chapters that you see here, the Red Scorpions, Minotaurs, Blood Ravens, Astral Claws and Carcharodons. They've all received some new recommended chapter tactics in the new Forge World book, though the way that they've been implemented is somewhat strange. So these ones appear in the Chapters of Renown section in the new Forge World Imperial Armour Compendium, and they state that they use the rules for successor chapters in Codex Space Marines. Over the page it gives you suggested rules for these 5 chapters. Other Forge World chapters without a current model in the line aren't here, unfortunately. There are no rules for things like Raptors, I believe because Forge World no longer produces any Raptors characters. I know they had rules for Laius Isidon in the Forge World rules, the last edition, but they have presumably gone to Legends at some point, seeing as I don't think he ever had a model. All of these 5 chapters in their own way have slightly unclear stories of their origins, plenty of hints as to what sort of genetic heritage they might have had, including a few rumours of some heretical gene seed making its way in there, but nothing absolutely 100% confirmed, and I don't believe that they're trying to address any of this in the actual rules. They're just trying to represent how the chapters fight in game. I was a bit sad that they haven't made any actual bespoke chapter tactics for these guys. I was kind of partly hoping that we'd get 5 new chapter tactics to play with as different options to play your Space Marines with, not that we don't have plenty already, but they have decided to go just down the successor chapter system rather than making more unique rules. The result is perhaps a bit more bland than it could have been otherwise, but I do see the logic in not just having endless amounts of Space Marine chapters, every one of which kind of needs to be considered when they make any new Space Marine units. One bit that I really didn't think was too necessary is that in the start of the Imperial Armour Compendium, it says that if any of the named characters here take a Warlord trait, it has to be the Inspiring Leader Warlord trait from the core rulebook. I was a bit disappointed with this, to be honest, seeing as all of these characters are quite flavourful, and that's just a really quite bland boost of +1 to leadership when any unit's within 6 inches of the character. I think it's quite a shame that you can't take the Warlord traits from the Successor Chapter books anymore, and it's really quite a good reason not to make any of these characters your actual Warlord right now. Next, it's kind of weird that they've gone down the route of making these suggested and recommended rules that imply that they aren't actually mandatory. They don't say you must use these Successor Chapter rules, they just say we suggest that you do, or we recommend that you do, which to me kind of sounds like they're sitting on the fence a little bit, and I imagine that quite a lot of people will follow their suggestions or recommendations. Though it seems that rules as written, as far as I can tell, you can still pick and choose your own Successor Chapter traits and your parent chapter of origin from the main core rulebook, much in the way as any other successor. It's just a bit weird, as they don't say that you can't do this, but they don't explicitly say that you can do this either, leaving people in a bit of a limbo. I think it might have been a bit more helpful just to come down one way or the other, either saying yes you can definitely do that if they intend for you to be able to, or just saying no that these chapter tactics are mandatory. Might make things a little bit more awkward for tournaments if people come in with different expectations as to whether or not you should definitely use these rules. It is actually quite a big deal, because being able to pick and choose your own successor traits are likely to be more powerful than any set successor traits that they give you, even if you only want to tweak them in some sort of minor way, such as swapping out one trait for another more powerful one. So let's talk about the actual successor traits then. First of all, Red Scorpions kind of got the short end of the stick here. They're basically an Ultramarine successor with inheritors of the Primarch. Now Ultramarines aren't awful, but not being able to access any of their special characters and just getting a couple of Red Scorpion ones instead isn't exactly amazing. And being a successor chapter means that you'll have a bit of trouble accessing some of their high tier relics as well. They do have some strong options such as redeploying pre-game, and that Seal of Oath relic that allows you some nice rerolls against one target, but their chapter tactic and doctrine aren't super strong, I'd argue. And in particular, Ultramarine successors that I've seen run often like to take other successor traits such as Bolter Fusiliers to allow you to reroll some ones there, so I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of that one myself. The Minotaurs have a slightly weird combo. They're advised to be run as an Imperial Fist successor with the Duelist and Stalwart traits. I can see how this might fit the Minotaurs' fluff somewhat, but in all honesty this looks like a pretty disastrous combination of traits for actually doing well in game. I think the main attraction to playing Imperial Fists and Crimson Fists are their chapter tactics with the exploding 6s with bolters, but you lose these with this. Instead you get Duelists, which is pretty much directly inferior to Whirlwind of Rage as a successor trait, and Stalwart, a trait that only ever applies if your Toughness 4 infantry are shot by Strength 8 weapons or greater. It's certainly an interesting combo, but doesn't look very strong in game to me. Next we have Blood Ravens, for which they advise an Ultramarine successor with Stalwart and Knowledge's Power. We just mentioned Stalwart, it applies quite rarely. and Knowledge's power is kind of fluffy for them, re-rolling ones with their psychic tests, and it's not a terrible upgrade if you are bringing librarians along. Now Psychic Fortress can give that 5+ invul save, we might see librarians played just a bit more. Again though, it does kind of feel like playing 40k on hard mode a bit. Knowledge's power and Stalwart just aren't going to affect the majority of your army the majority of the time. Next we have Astral Claws, here on Blackheart's old chapter. Again they've decided to go down the Ultramarine Successor route, and instead they get Rapid Assault and Hungry for Battle. Rapid Assault is advanced and shooting assault weapons, and Hungry for Battle is a very nice +1 to charge, and is one of the best successor traits in my opinion. This combo is interesting, it could be quite good with Terminators and things coming out of Deep Strike perhaps, or maybe with something like Assault Intercessors pushing up the board to fire off auto bolt rifles while still getting closer. Not sure how well it really compares with White Scars, who would get Rapid Assault and be able to advance and charge as well, which I think is more usable than some of them. Finally, we come to Carcharodons, who have decided to make a Raven Guard successor. Apparently there's been some long-standing rumours in the lore around that. Raven Guard's Infiltrate stratagem will allow you to get pretty much innate deep strike on any infantry unit, which is really quite cool. And their successor trait combos, Stealthy and Whirlwind of Rage, are both pretty useful. Stealthy will apply to the most of your army and give you some nice extra cover saves at range, where Whirlwind of Rage is a nice flat melee boost and one of the best successor traits. Could potentially be an interesting chapter for trying to make some long charges out of Deep Strike, and then really lay on the extra damage with Whirlwind of Rage. So overall, I do find the system that they've gone down just a little bit weird with these. With them just saying recommended or suggested, it's kind of hard to know how seriously to take them, and having named successor traits is kind of weaker than just picking the ones that you actually want to. Of these though, my favourite are the Astral Claws and the Carcharodons, both of which seem somewhat usable. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more similar videos like this. And if you are enjoying my videos regularly, I'd just like to mention that the channel has a Patreon page, which you can find down in the video description. Channel patrons get to see certain videos early each week, there's regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and you also get entered into the regular prize giveaway with a chance to win some big kits. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support the channel, then the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.